All right, so welcome everybody. I'm really excited we're doing this. I think this is such a great idea and such a great service that the Pastel Society offers this. I'm planning to share this idea to other pastel societies. The one we have here, I think, might really like to do something like this. I hope you don't mind me sharing the idea of having something like this. I think it's a really wonderful, wonderful way of utilizing people's different expertise. So our topic today is your art as a business. And I know that everybody coming here, I want to welcome you first of all. And I'm sure that you all are at different stages and you have different interests in different varying interests. And we have the luxury of only having 5 of you here. So we'll hopefully get a chance to get into some nitty gritty and some detailed questions. So I thought the plan for today, for me, I thought I would give you a brief introduction of myself. I got a nice introduction from Otto, but I think I want to give you a little bit more background on myself, a little bit more of my story. And I also, after I give you we're going to do an introduction of each of you. I would like to hear a little bit about each of you. And I'd like for everybody else to know a little bit about each of you. And then I also would like to give you a brief history on how my art business has developed over the last 17 years. And then I want to open it up to the topics that you guys want to discuss, because there is just so much and so many directions in which we could take this. So I also want to mention that I have a resource document that I put together that I'm going to upload into the chat. And as long as that works and you guys can all download it, we'll just do it that way. Otherwise, I can grab your emails and send it to you. But it's got, somebody mentioned already wanting to know more about Instagram, and I have a podcast and that I've done recently on working on growing my following on Instagram. And I also have a tip sheet on that, articles on getting into galleries, books that I have found useful over the years, blogs that I listen to regularly about art business, all that kind of stuff I have put together in one document for you guys. So let me see if I can just put that right in the chat now so I don't forget about it. Let's see if I can get this.
Great, thanks.
In here. Here we go. Let's see, file. Hopefully I can just drag and drop it. We'll see if, no, that doesn't work. Let's see. Has anybody ever had experience with this? How to add a file to, it's saying here, Dropbox, Microsoft OneDrive.
Exactly, Jeanne. If you want, I can. If you want, I can send it to them. You can send it directly to me, and I can send it to them. If you want, right. Do you want them to have that right now?
No, it's not something that we need to look at while we're doing this. So I will send it to you, and then, or I can even send it to you. I'll send it to you in a few minutes, and you can forward it to everybody. We'll do that.
Sounds perfect. Okay. I'll keep an eye on it.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So let me start by just telling you, I guess I got such a nice introduction from Otto. I don't really need to give you any more of an introduction quite yet. I will get an introduction from each of you, and then I'm going to go into what my history is. So I think what I'll do is go around on my screen. I'm going to give you guys each a brief spotlight, if that's okay, and then we'll go back to me. And what I'd like to hear from you is, imagine, you probably already heard the idea of an elevator speech. If you're in an elevator and you have like a couple seconds to tell everybody what your business is about. But what I really want to know is just what's your name, where are you from, but also what is your experience level now in terms of, are you looking to start selling? Are you currently in galleries? Are you looking to build or start a business or expand your business? Basically, just briefly, where are you and what are you looking to do at this point? Because it's going to help us in our discussion going forward. So how about Christine, we'll start with you. I'm going to just highlight you here.
Okay, well, my name is Christine Obers, and I work primarily in pastels. I actually, my specialty is portraits, portrait commissions, and within that, also my biggest niche is equine portraits. And recently I completed a series of blue-eyed horses, and that was fun. But what I really want to do is I really want to expand my career. I want to get into other things. I'm finding actually my portrait commission is kind of boring. And
Yeah.
so I want to do something new, and I want to do more social media stuff. I want to get eventually into galleries, but right now I don't have any big idea, but that's where my direction is, to expand.
Okay. Okay. You know, I started off in portraiture. I did portraiture for the first several years and then expanded out from there. But you've got a much more developed portraiture business than I did to start off with. But okay. Great. Marty, we'll go on to you next.
So I'm in Southern California and I'm fairly new to pastels. I think I've been doing them for about 3 years. And it's my primary media, that and watercolor would be secondary. I just love pastels, though I tend to really work in those more than anything else. So I don't have a whole lot of experience, but I'm taking workshops constantly. I'm in Alan Picard's ongoing monthly thing, and I've been with Marla Baguetta also a little bit. And I would like to get into galleries. I'm trying to just become as good as I can be. I started very late, so I really want to get to a really high level of excellence. That's my goal. I would love to be in galleries as well, but I would have to say I belong to a lot of societies. I'm with our little local one out in Santa Clarita. I'm with Women Painters West, Pastel Society Southern California, the Pastel Society West Coast, Valley Watercolor Society. I've joined all these societies, which is great because it connects me to a lot of workshops.
Right.
So I'm plugging away. It's been great having to be home actually the last year because I've been working a lot more than I had been. I have my kids have all grown up. They're all doing their own thing. And I have a tiny little bedroom studio. One of my goals would be to be in a bigger space one day, but I'm not making any money to speak of when it comes to that. So,
Right.
you know, I spend a lot on supplies, but
right. So you want it to be more sustaining, and you want
nice.
to turn into more of a business. So,
yes. And I do have questions on that, but I'll get to those later after everybody introduces themselves.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to Daniel. Let's see.
Unmute. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm in Long Beach, California right now. I've moved all over the place, and that kind of seems to be one of my goals, a topic of one of my goals. I want to network more and get involved more in the art communities. I feel like I've been in a few galleries and I like that. I've done art shows, but my goal is to keep developing my own gallery and get into some new ones that are supportive of artists. And let's see, I don't know the Instagram algorithm, but I do what I can on there, and I'm trying to grow organically with people who really appreciate my artwork. And I find that in all the places I've moved, I've always had to start fresh. You know, I couldn't really join a guild or anything like that. I was just, you know, planting my roots, trying to get into the community, and then we would move again. And now I'm here in Long Beach, and it's been a really warm welcome. I keep saying that, and I mean that. And so I want to get more involved and try and do more art shows. And let's see, I think that's about it. Yeah. Oh, my artwork. I do portraits and Western artwork and Calavera artwork. Those are like the main 3 genres that I do.
Can you tell me what Calavera artwork is? Because I'm not familiar with that.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. It's skeletons, kind of like surreal artwork.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like Day of the Dead. Calavera means skeleton in Spanish.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. So are you working with any galleries currently?
Yes, I have in Tucson, it's Art House Centro Gallery. It's near the Tucson Museum of Art. They're the only gallery that I still have artwork in. The 3 other galleries that I was associated with closed their doors this last year.
Yeah.
So that kind of prompted me to go and online on YouTube and podcasts and learn everything I can about becoming my own gallery. And I'm thankful to be selling artwork still and do it full time. I've been doing it full time since 2012.
So I have another question for you. When you say your own gallery, are you talking about just selling direct brick and mortar, or direct from your website, or both? Or what do you mean by your own?
I used to do a lot of festivals. I haven't, obviously done that in a while. In fact, I sold all of my equipment. It's mainly through my website and through Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is a better time than we've ever had before for selling direct. I have sold more. My private sales went up more than double last year, even though I have a lot of work in galleries. I think it's a really good time for selling things directly. So you're smart to be doing that. Okay, let's move on to Penny.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I am, let's see, what would I say? I was an artist as a young person, and then I sort of dropped it for about 35 years. And about 4 years ago, I started both with watercolor and pastels. My work kind of has 2 strains. I started back doing waves and seascapes, which is where I discovered you along the way. And then, but I also do like to work in series. So I'm also working on a series of things that I did based on some photographs I took at Mardi Gras last year. And so that would be not necessarily, some of them are portraits, but it's sort of it's based on what I'm sort of interested in at that point in time. But I'm old, I'm 66. So I'm not really thinking about having, a big career as an artist, but my work when I was young always sold, even though I wasn't trying to. And when I'm now, people express a lot of interest. So I think it's marketable, and I really don't want it all just gathering around my house, but I'm kind of an introvert, and so maybe online things are right. I guess I'm just trying to think, what are the avenues out there and what would feel comfortable for me to market my art in today's world. So I'm a novice in most ways, just looking for a fit.
Okay, before we move on, I just have to tell you that I am a total introvert, and I can't tell you how much I love social media for introverts. It is so nice to not actually have to meet people face to face. I mean, I find, big venues and things like that completely draining. And I'm one of the few instructors I know who actually find that Zoom workshops are much easier for me than in-person ones. I mean, I love teaching in person. I think you can actually read students and communicate better in person. I just find it really much more draining emotionally, everything.
Yeah.
So, so also, I just feel like once you can get over the fact that you are selling something, social media is a great way to communicate without it taking a lot out of you. So, doing things via Facebook and Instagram is really very easy to do for introverts. So
great.
This is your time. Okay. Let's go to Tasha.
Hi.
Hi, I'm going to go ahead and spotlight you even though, let's see. Not seeing the, oh, wait a second. There you are. Okay. There we go. Yeah.
All right.
Hi.
Good deal. Hi. I'm Tasha Peterman. I'm in Orange County, California, and I've been doing pastels for probably about 3.5 years now. And I'm just really loving them. I've branched out to colored pencil and watercolor as well, but I just love my pastels. And hoping to get in galleries eventually and sell.
Okay. More? Do you have anything else? That's pretty
that's
brief.
pretty
You're
good.
just getting started and wanting to know what the possibilities are for
Yeah.
future expansion in business. And great. Okay. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to move back. All right. So what I would like to do now is just tell you a little bit about really how things happen for me, and maybe some of this will be helpful or resonate with you, and then we'll move on to more specific topics and questions. So as Otto mentioned, I did not get a degree in business. I did not get a degree in art. I got a degree in English, and I was an English professor for 10 years. But I've always painted. I always loved to paint. And I finally decided at some point that that was really what I should be doing. And when I was about 35, I ended up making the switch. When my first grader, well, when my youngest was in first grade, that's when I decided I was going to do this full time. I think I decided when my youngest was born, when I had 3 kids, and I realized I did the math, and my high school babysitter was making more per hour than I was teaching as an adjunct at the university. I was already people were asking me to do portraits. I was painting portraits of my kids, and then people were asking me to paint them for their kids. And I could make as much money painting a portrait or 2 as I could teaching an entire 16-week course at the local university. And I realized, well, this is way more fun. And then people asked me if I could teach them how to paint. And at first I thought, well, I don't have a degree in this. I don't know how to teach painting. And luckily a good friend of mine who was retiring from who got a full-time teaching job, talked me into taking over a community school art class. And she said, well, you know how to paint and you know how to teach. So you just do this, you can do it. So I took over the little class, and then the people didn't want to stop at the end of the 6-week class. And I said, well, why don't you just come over to my house and we'll do it over there. And then this little light bulb went off in my head. Why would I go through a middleman and have the school paying me an hourly rate when I can have these people come to my house and make more money and just do it directly? So I just bought a bunch of easels and started having more people coming to my house, and I started my own little school. So I guess I was an entrepreneur at heart, and that's what I started doing. And I realized I just would rather do this. It's more fun than what I was doing before. And it was more my passion. And so it helped that I was making so little money as a English professor and because what I had studied was American women writers, specifically ethnic women writers. I was writing about tricksters and folklore, and it was so much fun and so interesting, but there were no jobs available. There were the year that I graduated with my PhD, there were 5 ethnic literature jobs in the country. None of them were in any of the cities that my husband could get a job. And so I ended up teaching as an adjunct. So that just turned out lucky for me, because then it was really easy for me to paint and make a little money doing painting and teaching for a while. And as it just has grown over time. And over the years, I think when my kids were little, it worked out really well for me because the pressure wasn't on to earn a lot of money. But then later I was able to really put more time and more effort and more into it. I think the teaching helped me in a lot of ways, because I set up classes in my home, in my basement, where I taught 3 classes with 12 people in each class on Tuesdays, 1 day a week. And so I had 36 people coming to my house every week. And so by the time that I ended up getting a divorce in 2000, it was around 2010, 2011, I was able to support myself just on teaching 3 classes a week in my basement. So, I mean, and I was in a couple of galleries at the time, but the teaching allowed me, I was basically two streams of income, the teaching and the painting. The painting was growing slowly at the time. I was selling some, but it was unreliable, whereas the teaching was reliable income every month. So that paid my mortgage. Do you have a question, Marty?
I do, yeah. How did you get your training? Like, how did you become so good at when you had been trained as an English teacher or an English?
How did I learn how to paint? You mean?
Yeah, yeah. And
Well,
and
my
like,
whole-
how did
I
you
had-
develop your confidence to teach other people without
Oh.
an art degree?
Well, you know what I was doing when I was teaching English.
Mhm.
So I knew how to teach. And what I did was as I started, I just shared what I knew. And what somebody told me early on was, you don't have to know everything. You just have to know more than the people you're teaching, which is
And
true.
they were adults?
Yeah, it was always adults.
Wow.
And the thing is, what you have to know when you're teaching people is you have to know how to explain things to people. You have to understand where they are. And so when I started, I taught only beginners.
Mhm.
Because
That's-
I didn't, I mean, I had to, you have to know what you don't know. I wasn't teaching experts because I wasn't qualified for it. And I knew I wasn't qualified for it. What happened was I was going to a portrait group every Thursday morning, and I was doing these portraits in pastel in this little group, and people were coming up to me. That's what made me start. That was one of the other things that made me start. People were saying, would you teach me how to do this? So people were asking me
Yeah.
for these. So it's not like I was offering this and trying to get people to come. They were actually asking me to teach them. So,
Wow.
you know, and then so here's what I did was, I kind of used a lot of the skills I had learned studying for my English degree. I read a lot. I really memorized Richard McKinley's pastel pointers. I memorized Elizabeth Mallory's Painting the Four Seasons in Pastel. That was kind of my Bible when I first started out, because that was one of the early books that was out on how to paint in pastel. That's really how I learned.
Okay.
And so I taught myself through what I would call the great books, kind of like you do when you're studying for a doctorate. I went to because I didn't have the money or the time to take art classes early on. So I just bought books and read them and practiced everything in the books over and over and over again. So I just taught myself that way. And then I think once you start teaching someone else, you're breaking down the process when you're teaching. And so my education came through teaching.
I've heard that so much.
Oh, it's so true. You know, you start teaching people, and you know, when you're trying to explain how color works to somebody, it really clicks in your own mind. And I knew that from having had to explain semicolons. I never had to, when I was teaching English and I had to explain how punctuation works, I always kind of knew because I always used it right. I was just good at it, but I didn't really understand the rules until I had to explain them to somebody else. Right. So in just preparing the lessons, I figured out what the rules really were. So that's what I really taught myself by teaching other people.
That's so good to hear.
Yeah. So it's real. If sometimes, and I hear, especially Marty, you're talking about taking all of these workshops. At some point, you've taken all these workshops and you may get frustrated because some of the teachers you feel like you haven't really learned anything from, or you get frustrated with the way something is organized. You don't necessarily get as much as you hope from a workshop. If you get to that point, it may just be that it's time for you to back off on the workshops, study on your own, and maybe even start taking on a couple of students yourself, because you might be able to teach yourself more than you're getting from other people.
I have picked up every book that every workshop artist has recommended, and I'm constantly doing that. I'm constantly doing the exercises out of the books and reading through everything. I have Richard McKinley's pastel pointers, and I just ordered Don Emerson's book. I forget what it's called, but I just ordered it. So I'm doing that. And I think that's great. But I love hearing your story, because it helps to know that, you know, oh, maybe I could teach at some point, but I don't have any kind of art degree. So I've always been not confident about it.
I mean, I actually have really good friends who have art degrees who said that their art degree really didn't do them a whole lot of good in terms of teaching them how to paint the way they paint now. You know, that especially if they got their art degree in the 70s or early 80s, it was all abstract expressionism. They really didn't learn how to draw.
Right.
So an art degree doesn't necessarily guarantee you any measure of expertise.
That's good to hear too. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No, that's fine. That's what this is for. So I would say one of the first things I learned from what my previous experience gave me was the idea of doing the research. Also, being a teacher really helped. So the other things that I have felt as I was thinking about this, what really helped me going along was one of the things that Daniel mentioned, building a network. That has been one of the biggest things that has helped me along the way. I was thinking about all of the genuine personal connections that I have made over the years that have made a huge difference to my career. One of the first things I did, I'm in Massachusetts, and when I first moved up here, it was in 2006 that I moved here. I met up with, over the first year I was here, I met up with 3 other women, and we all formed a group. We called ourselves at the beginning the Walden Artists, because we're right near Walden Pond, and we had all these plans that we were going to be plein air painting in Walden and all these other great, which we have done. But what we ended up doing was every month, really, and we've been getting together for 15 years. One of us now one lives in New Hampshire now, and one lives in Vermont, but we still get together. So we've gotten together every month or so, less frequently now, to paint together. We usually will paint, we'll critique each other's work. Most importantly, we share information about, at first it was just, what shows are you going to enter? What shows are available? And 2 of us are pastelists, 2 of us are oil painters. So somebody would always have a list of what are the big shows this year that we should be entering. Somebody would make up a schedule of things. And this was before the internet was, had all that stuff where you could just go to ArtSubmit or whatever. And we would just kind of talk about, what are you going to do? Why? Strategize about things. We would share gossip about galleries. Which gallery should you try to get into? Don't go to this guy. He doesn't pay on time. This guy doesn't pay his artist until 6 months later. Stuff like that you need to know. Or this person doesn't treat their artist very well, or this person's great, or whatever it is. All of our careers have hugely benefited from our alliance with each other. We have all 4 of us have helped each other get into galleries. One of us will get in somewhere, propose a show with all 4 of us. And that's how I got into one of my best galleries, was through one of the other people. I've helped others get into galleries. This is how it happens. You get into places because people recommend you. Not always. Sometimes I've gotten into places just through cold calls. I've gotten into places because they've found me, and I've gotten into places from people recommending me. So it happens in lots of ways, but having a network, it's been a huge help. We also send each other emails all the time. I'm thinking of entering these 5 pieces into IAPS. Which ones do you think I should enter? I still do that all the time. I said, these are my trusted critics, the people that I send stuff to, or I'm not sure why I hate this painting. Can you tell me why? That kind of thing. You need your people to tell you that. So those are my people that I still rely on all the time.
Can I ask you how you found your 4? Were they friends previously?
No, I didn't know them before. So one woman, the first gallery that I got into when I got up in, the first gallery I ever got into up here in Massachusetts, I went to an art opening there, and her name's Penny Bellings. I had been noticing her work, at the Concord Art Association. She was always in the shows, and I really liked her work. And I kept thinking, her work just impressed me, and I always kind of had my eye on her work. And then I met her at this opening, and when we introduced, I saw her name on her name tag, and I said, "Oh, you're Penny Billings," and she said, "Oh, you're Jeanne Smith." So we just kind of met that way. And then she said, "Hey, I've been thinking about doing this." It was her idea. She was a lawyer in her former career, and so she was really into networking and organizing. She said, "I think we should do this," and she said, "I've got this whole plan," and it was her idea so she hooked us up with everybody else. Since then, I have another alliance like that with 2 other artists that we all met at a workshop, and decided because we all had sort of different skills. One of us had done lots of business contracts and things in her former life, and I was kind of the social media person, and so we all had kind of different things that we were good at, and we decided we would just meet one's in Rhode Island, one's in Connecticut, and I'm in Massachusetts. We're all 2 hours away, but every few months we try to get together. We were getting together at each other's studios. Now we do it by Zoom. So it's really, really helpful. And we've really helped each other at different times in our careers and lives through different things. So you just have to find people. What's important in an alliance like this is everybody has to be supportive and confident, and not, you got to find people who are going to be supportive and not jealous when you are successful, who are going to be rooting for you. Because you will find as your success grows that you need people around you who are going to be rooting for you, and not thinking when they hear about your good news that their first instinct isn't, oh man, I wish that had happened to me, or why doesn't this ever happen to me? You need people who are secure enough in themselves that they're just happy for you and rooting for you.
And we'll be honest.
Right. Yeah. So you just have to choose well when you choose the people in this group.
Thank you.
So building a network. The other people that I found, you mentioned Alan Picard years ago, and this goes along with the next thing I was going to say, which is mentors. You always want to be on the look. Finding good mentors is really another good key. And I would say that's something for me that it should come about kind of naturally. You just want to always be on the lookout for people who you admire, who you feel like have something to say to you, who you could learn from, but also somebody that you fit with naturally. Often it might be somebody that you've taken a workshop with, and so I'll give you an example of somebody that's just turned into a really good friend of mine. Liz Haywood Sullivan. I'm sure you've heard of her. I'm sure you know her because everybody's heard of her.
Taking her workshop.
Years ago, she lives an hour from me. And years ago, I was just starting to teach workshops, and I happened to take a workshop with her. And I had already started taking Terry Ludwig's, or I had gotten to know him, and I had been teaching workshops at his studio. So I had an apron. And at that point, his aprons were like only for the people who actually taught workshops with him. You couldn't buy them yet. So I happened to show up at her workshop with the Terry Ludwig apron on. So she didn't know who I was. She'd never heard of me, but I had this apron on. So she's like, ooh, where did you get this? So we started talking, and it was a good workshop. I loved her workshop, but that was kind of it. But then later, maybe 6 months later, I sent her an email because I was starting to teach more workshops, and I needed information on what to charge, and what I just needed more information on how to run these things. And I was getting a lot of invitations, and I didn't know what to do. And I thought, all right, I wrote to her, but I said, I really need to talk to you about this stuff. Can I take you out to lunch to do this? Because I knew we had a little connection to begin with, but I also knew she was incredibly busy and overwhelmed. And I wanted to respect her time. And I also wanted to give her an out if it didn't work. But I also wanted to make it nice for her. I didn't want to make her feel obligated, and I wanted to treat her right. So, and I've had students of mine say, can I get you coffee? Can I do something, if they're going to meet with me, they'll make it nice, so if you're going to do something like that, just be polite, be respectful and aware of that, and that's only if you know the person and you have a relationship. Like I've had people call me up and just be like, can I talk to you for 45 minutes about your expertise? Randomly, people out of the blue that I don't know. And it's like, no, I have a life. You cannot do that, So you just have to be, obviously you want to look for mentors in a natural way and have it develop naturally. Now, Liz and I are really, really good friends. I talk to her several times a week now. And that's developed over years. I started to say before, Rhoda Yanow, I took a class with her. She just recently won the Hall of Fame. I took a class with her at the Ducray School of Art in New Jersey, and she was just very helpful in the beginning. I was just a student, and she told me, she said to me, why don't you enter something in the Pastel Society? She's like, there is this Pastel Society of America. You should enter their show. So I did that, 2005, and I got a portrait in, and Then I didn't get anything in for another 8 years. But so the first one I got in, and then she said, oh, you got in, you have to go to the dinner. You'll meet people at the dinner. Go and network. It's just good. It doesn't matter if you win anything, just buy a ticket to the dinner. She's this New York lady. She was great, just great. And so I went, and she said, I'll be there. I'll introduce you. And I went, and I ended up getting sat at the dinner. I didn't win any awards, but I just went to the dinner. I lived in New Jersey at the time. So it was just a train right in. And lucky for me, who was I sitting next to at the dinner but Alan Picard, who also, it was his first time there. He had won an award and he was all excited. And we had the best time. You know, it was just so, he's the greatest guy. And we just had a wonderful time. And that was the beginning of a long friendship. And because I met him at the dinner, he happened to be talking, he already knew Terry Ludwig and was on the phone with him one time and mentioned to him, because I was doing portraits at the time, Terry was developing a portrait set, and he said, oh, you should look at Jeanne Rosier Smith's portraits. So then Terry calls me up out of the blue because he needed somebody to develop a portrait set. And then Terry kept calling me, and I was talking to him on the phone, and I ended up getting to know him really well. Went to the Portrait Society of America convention and got to know him, and we became really good friends. And then I started teaching out there, and Terry and I are good friends now. So it's just, the networking is really helpful. And when I went to IAPS for the first time, actually, it was Terry who said to me, you really, if you want to develop your career, you have got to show up at IAPS. Just go, because, you know, I said, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure I can afford it. It's a lot. I've got little kids. He said, you have to make the time for it. If you want your career to take off, you have to go, because everybody who's anybody goes to IAPS. That's how if you're going to ever be an instructor out there, you have to go first and show you're interested. And that was the best advice he could have given me. And then when I got out there, he took me under his wing. He introduced me to Stan Spurlack, Kim Lordier. He's like, she's great. Take her around. They took me out. They invited me to their like instructor paint out thing. And I was not an instructor at the time. They were just really nice to me. And it was because he was being nice to me. So it was the networking that really, really helped. You know, he made a huge difference just by introducing me to everybody he knew.
He's hysterically funny. I laugh all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a character. He's a real character. He's great. And his wife, Marie, is really a sweetheart too. So that kind of just getting to know people in a, you know, when it's networking, it's really establishing relationships with people, spending time with them, getting to know them genuinely. And when people, I've just made so many really good friends. It's just spending time and getting to know people. It is networking, but it's not networking in a skeezy way. It's in a genuine way. You know, and because I have found that when people really do want to help you out. The other side of that, though, is people will help you out and speak for you and help you get into galleries when they also have respect for your work. So those two things have to be there too. I've talked to my son about this. He's a musician, and he and his musician friends talk about this all the time, that how important is who you know versus how good your work is. And I think this is the same in art. Who you know is important, but it's not important at all if your work isn't any good. So you have to have both. You know, so as you have to always, the best combination is excellent work and good connections. If you have both, you're going to do really well. So good connections will ease the path, but excellent work is more important. You know, you can get by without any good connections if your work is really excellent. You can get into, you know, you can send your work in to galleries through email, through their system, and they will recognize it. I've gotten stuff in that way, and people had no idea who I was. And I've had friends do that too. You can definitely do that. So those two things are both really good things to have. So that's kind of the story. Over time, it's just grown. I'm really not teaching as much anymore. I realize what I've really learned over the last year, since I have now been teaching for 30 years. I've kind of figured out that I'm really enjoying just painting. And I'm working with 8 different galleries, and which is starting to get a little scary. It's really a lot to keep 8 galleries juggled, and I'm not complaining. It's really great, but I'm lucky enough right now to be able to trust that the stuff is just going to keep painting, it just keeps selling, because it's selling even in January and February and March when stuff we never used to sell. So those are my low months, but there's plenty of stuff still moving. So I know I can rely on income all year long. And so I don't have to be teaching anymore. So I'm still doing a couple Zoom demos, but and I still have committed to teaching a few more workshops through next year, because you have to book them so far in advance. But I'm going to just try painting from now on, I think, which is great. I'm excited about it. Looking forward to it.
You have a workshop coming up in October with us.
I do. That's right. Yep. That's the, and my son, who's a musician, lives in LA. So that's one reason I want to go out there, because I haven't gotten to see him since he moved there in January.
I'm hoping it can be all in person. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually have spoken to the organizer there that I would really like to make it an in-person workshop, because I want to come. I really, really want to come out there. So I'm hoping that if we can't do it in person in October, I just want to postpone it until we can do it in person.
Do you know what the dates are of that?
I can't remember. I'm not sure. I might have it. I think let me check on my calendar here, because I think I've got it marked on my calendar. I have so I have tentative. I know it's during the week of the 18th to the 24th of October. I don't know the specific dates within that time.
Okay.
I have a question.
Let me. I'm gonna look that up, Jeanne. I know I have it on my calendar too. So yeah, we're definitely looking forward to that. Let me look that up right now. Okay, for you guys, so you guys know. Sorry,
No,
but that's you guys trying to figure out the date.
That's actually the only workshop that I'm teaching now. I just finished teaching one, but I'm not teaching anything else this year, because I'm just going to be painting for the rest of the year.
Nice.
So, but I won't be rusty. I promise. I will. I'll be fine.
What's your painting schedule?
What's my painting schedule? So a lot of time ends up getting spent communicating, packing, framing, all of that stuff too. I try to, I paint whenever I want to. I don't like schedules. So this is why I'm not answering your question directly. Some days I paint from 10 in the morning until 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Some days I paint from 2 until 8 or 9 at night. Some days, like New Year's Day, I was hanging out doing other things, and then I thought, hey, I don't want to start the new year without having painted a painting. So I painted and did something from 9 until midnight.
Oh my gosh.
So it's just sort of random.
But how many days a week would you say you paint on average?
6.
Wow.
I paint all the time. This past year, I completed 250 paintings. I know that specifically, that number, because I keep track of everything on Artwork Archive, which is listed on your resource sheet. I love Artwork Archive because it gives me the motivation to archive each painting, to make a note of it. And I can send out to my galleries, a list of it's like a consignment sheet with each painting. It's got the image and where it's going. And I can also, you can keep track of where things are, but also you can enter in exhibits and what you've entered in them and which ones are accepted and whether or not they won any awards. So like for any particular painting, you've got a whole provenance with wherever it's been, and whether it's won anything or not, or what galleries or wherever it's shown, and then who buys it. You can keep track of all your clients, and how many pieces they own. So, and I think it's like $12.99 a month or something like that. And then you can also, the other nice thing about it is that then even if something were to happen and you were to lose everything on your computer and you lose all your images, they're in there, they're in the cloud, so that they're in this online system.
Yeah,
so
I got into that. I got into that one. I mean, I started that like a month ago, but you do have to do all the work too, and typing it all the information.
Yeah, you have to enter. Yes. So that kind of stuff takes time. I personally, once I start painting, I don't like to be interrupted. I really don't like I don't like the business side of it as much. I prefer the painting. So I try to get my business stuff done in the morning, and then I'll paint in the afternoon and evening.
Janine, I had a question about Instagram growth, and if there were some activities you did, or maybe a news article where you really like were featured in a magazine or something, where you saw some growth on your Instagram, or if you did like a giveaway or something like that, because you have an incredible following on Instagram.
Yeah, I haven't ever done any giveaways. And I think they were really popular a couple of years ago. And then I read somewhere, don't do them, or they don't give you the payback that you want, or they're just not worth it. So I ended up never doing it. Definitely, occasionally from time to time, I've had a piece that was shared on a big site, and that I noticed that brings an uptick in followers. I think
What sites do you
I don't
like?
even know.
Another Instagram page, you mean?
Yeah, just on other Instagram, somebody will like art blog, something or other. I don't know. I'm not even sure.
Are those paid for, or
No,
they're just?
I've never paid for any of them. It's just if somebody finds it and shares your work.
Gotcha.
So one thing I would point out is there's for specific stuff on how to follow or how to get, I've got a link to a whole list of tips. And in that link with a list of tips, there's a link to a couple of really good articles on how to grow your Instagram. There's a lot of specific things on things you can do. One of the things you can do is you can start a group with a couple of your friends, and you were talking about not understanding the algorithm. One thing you can do with a couple people is get a couple of friends. You could do this with, like, if you had a community of this, like your art critique group or whatever, you all just commit to growing your Instagram together. If one of the things that helps to grow is not just posting stuff, but commenting on other people's work. And so if the more present you are on Instagram, the more visible you are, people will see you more, and then they'll notice your work and you'll grow more. So if you agree with several other people that when you post something, they'll comment on yours, you'll comment on theirs, and you're doing it every day, preferably more than once a day, it will grow more quickly. At the present time, I notice that if I post once a day, I will continue to grow a little bit, maybe 20, 30 people a day. If I post twice a day, I will grow by 100 to 150 people every day.
Wow.
It's directed. It is totally driven by how many times I post. It's also driven by what I'm posting. Like, my followers definitely like seascapes. They're there because they like seascapes, and they will put up with a certain amount of variety. But if I start posting too many random things, I lose followers.
So
And-
is there anything like
and I've
the new
noticed-
leads you get? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Daniel.
So on Instagram, do you see a lot of sales through your new leads that you gain on there?
Oh, so yeah. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes how many sales are direct from Instagram. I figured it out recently because I did this podcast that was all about growing your Instagram, which is the link is also there for you guys. But I figured out that over the past year, about 10% of my sales were through Instagram.
Okay.
So, but I would also say that, so recently I just did 2 Zoom demos, like 2-hour demos direct from here. And because of having a large Instagram following, it was super easy for them to sell. And all I did to announce them, I also have a newsletter, which is real. I didn't mention my newsletter, but for marketing, your newsletter is super important. Having a newsletter. And I mean, that's when I used to teach my classes all the time, even before social media was a big deal. I had just a constant contact newsletter, which now I have my newsletter through my website. But my newsletter was the only way that I got word out that I was teaching my classes. And whenever I was announcing more classes or needed to fill up my classes, I just announced it in my newsletter and they would fill up. And So what I do now, like with the Zoom demos, I announce that whatever teaching I have, I announce it first in my newsletter. And then I also announce it on Instagram. And every time now I notice that I announce like my Zoom demos, whenever I announce anything on Instagram, I instantly get people signing up. Like I get 5 or 6 more right away. Stuff definitely comes that direction. I get more sales, like more percentage wise, I get more sales from my newsletter than from
Oh,
Instagram.
interesting. Yeah.
I mean, if you think there's 40,000, supposedly 40,000 followers on Instagram, I'm not getting percentage wise as many sales from Instagram, because the followers on your newsletter are super interested. They're bigger fans. You know, Instagram fans are casual fans.
Yeah.
So one of the things I did that was really helpful, my daughter figured this out. She's a marketing person. She did this sale for me back in May, I think, or in April, when nothing was selling anywhere. You know, a lot of people were doing that artist support pledge on Instagram. I did the artist support pledge for a while, but I found it really cumbersome to have to figure out, like through direct message with each person, how to send them something. And it was like these $200 things. And it was just a lot of work to send out a $200 thing. And she said, okay,
Yeah,
well,
I remember that.
yeah. And I did 20 of them, but then I thought, I can't keep doing this. It's way too time consuming. And so she said, why don't you just hold one sale? She said, how fast can you do a whole bunch of these? And I did a whole bunch of them over a weekend. And so she said, all right, let's do a sale and sell 25 of them in a weekend. And she said, we could do a build up. So she did all of these. She went on Canva and did a whole bunch. I sent her some of the images, and she did, you know, this thing saying something big announcement coming soon. And then, so she built up like an Instagram campaign where she said, we're going to do a sale. And and this was, I thought this was genius. I never would have thought of it. But what she said is, in order to, if you want to, we pre-saled, we had 8 of the 25 pieces. We were selling each one for, they were 6x8 sketches. Each one of them took me like 45 minutes to do. So I didn't want to spend much time, because I didn't want them to compete with my galleries. So they weren't fully rendered, really finished paintings. And I was selling each one for $250, and 20% of the proceeds went to the Greater Boston Food Bank. So it was, you know, a fundraiser, and I had a pre-sale of 8 of them 3 days in advance, and you could only get to the pre-sale by joining my mailing list, my newsletter. That was where you got the link. So I got like 60 people to sign up for my newsletter through Instagram that way.
That's great. That's really clever.
Yeah.
With you said Canvas, that was an app for Instagram posts?
So Canva, C-A-N-V-A, is
Okay.
It's like a graphic design app. Actually, I don't know if it's on the phone. I think it's just on your computer. But it's really an easy way to create, to put like words and things, to create these really slick looking advertisements and things. And
or Instagram or Facebook?
For Instagram or Facebook, yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah, I think Adobe Spark Post does something similar.
if you have one
okay.
already that works, then go for it. Yeah, I didn't have anything. And actually we used my daughter's, and I had to do it again today because I'm doing an auction next week, and I had to download it again, and you can download a free version for 30 days. So I just did it again. So I'm not going to pay for it because it's like $14 a month, and I don't use it very often, but yeah, so that helped me get the idea is you want to get more people subscribing to your monthly newsletter or whatever, because those are your real fans. You really own those fans. Like you can communicate with them and develop a relationship, and those are the ones that are going to buy your big paintings more often. I just yesterday, someone who follows me on Instagram went in and bought a $2,000 painting at the gallery in Connecticut. So there are sales that come from people find me on Instagram and then go to the galleries and buy stuff, where they buy stuff from me. I've had 3 direct sales from my website in the last 2 weeks. And then
so your gallery, sorry to interrupt you, but really quick, your gallery shares with you who your patrons are?
This particular gallery does. She's sold 17 paintings since January. And she's a really, she works really hard for me, and we communicate very well. And so I'll tell her where people are coming from. And she said, this woman, Liesel, just told me she came through Instagram. She thought I knew her. And I was like, no, I don't know her, but yeah, I probably did tell her to come to you through, I tell people all the time. So
That's great. That's a cool story. And it's
Yeah.
nice that the gallery will tell you who the patron was, because sometimes they like to keep that to themselves.
Yeah. Well, I think she probably told me that because she knew the woman was probably going to get back in touch with me, and she wanted me to know that, so I could, and she did. The woman sent me a picture of the painting in her bedroom that night. So
That's great. That's so cool. Yeah.
So I have a question. So when you were directing people to your newsletter, or how did you do that? Did you actually put a link to your website on Instagram, or how did you do that? Or did you tell people to just, look you up?
So if you have a business Instagram account,
Right.
then in your bio on your Instagram account, you get one link,
Yes.
and you can
Okay.
change it to whatever you want. So at the time that I was running that campaign, I just made the link my email newsletter sign up link. And
Okay.
so then the message just said, sign up for my newsletter, link in the bio.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that's how you did it, because it was my understanding that if you posted a link outside of, like, say, Instagram or or Facebook, that you were actually penalized for doing that.
So yes, but you can put it in your bio, and then you just say in the
Yeah,
post
okay.
itself, you say link in the bio. So here's the other thing about Instagram is once you reach 10,000 followers, and this is a really good motivation for getting yourself to 10,000 followers, is then in the stories, you know what the stories are at the top of Instagram? Then
Yeah.
in the stories, you can put links. You can add links
Okay.
in the stories, which is huge.
That's my big goal this year, 10,000.
Yeah,
It's a slow grow. Yeah.
Oh, it's the best, because the stories, really posting stories, that's the best thing to do. If you can post more stories, people look at the stories, that gets you up at the top of the feed all the time. And every time you do a post, if you also put a story and say, check out my new post, because every time you put a story, it puts you at the top of people's feed. If they follow you, you're going to be at the top, and they'll just click on that, because they'll just go to the first thing. If they see your name, they'll be like, oh, I want to see what he's doing.
Mhm.
So they may not see you in their feed, but they'll see you at the top.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a monster you got to keep feeding. And I actually really enjoy, giving behind the scene looks with my stories and the posts, and some people will, for everybody who buys artwork, I send a genuine thank you typed and all that. And then they open it and share it. And
Oh, that's
it's organic, but it
It
doesn't
is.
really scale for as big as I envision things getting, but I'll do it while I can,
What is your Instagram?
Daniel's artwork. All one word.
I'm putting it in here right now. There we go.
Thanks. Yeah. And on like Thursdays, I go live every Thursday. And
Oh, you do?
In the mornings. Yeah. And on the weekends, sometimes I'll go live while I plein air paint around here in LA. Sometimes the coastline. And there's videos in there. I mean, I'm doing what I can.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, I was just gonna say videos are, and you probably noticed this, videos really are popular. People love videos.
Well, with so much information, I feel like with so much out there, I feel like the really valuable thing is attention. And if I can get people's attention and invite them to learn about me and the artwork I'm making, then they're more likely to appreciate it and put it in their home.
Yeah, definitely. The only thing you could add to what you're doing is probably interacting as much as possible with other people, especially people who have big followings, who then will, if they start to notice what you're doing, the more interaction you have with somebody else, the more they're gonna, and make substantive comments on their work. Like I can tell you, like people, when they're commenting on my work, a lot of times I'll like a lot of comments. People will make 1 or 2 word comments. If they make a bigger comment that actually is saying something that I think is interesting, I might actually go look at what they do, and then maybe follow them.
Mhm.
So, that will get me to look at what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I'll I really try and respond to everybody, and I think people just want to be seen and heard, and I do dive into Instagram sometimes, and find people with doing amazing artwork. And it's interesting what you said about your son being competitive and performing and who I feel like it is about who a lot of the times, but you do have to perform. And I used to be so competitive with art, and I would find that I would stagnate because my focus and attention was on somebody else instead of myself.
Oh,
So now I just celebrate, that it's hard enough being an artist and making a living. So if somebody's doing it, I'm in wonder of it, and I really appreciate everybody and what they're doing. It's so silly I look back and I'm like, man, that was so silly to be so competitive,
Yeah. Right. Well, and I think that's also probably grows out of just having more confidence in what you're doing also. I mean, it's true. You, as long as you know that your voice is what you have to be nurturing, then you can be really happy for somebody else's success. It's not about the competition, because really, if somebody, like even the other artists in the same gallery with me, if somebody is picking somebody else's work over mine, it's not a competition. It's because that was what they were meant to have. It's not,
Art is so subjective.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I also feel like it's always, you don't ever want to lose track of the fact that I just feel really privileged to be able to spend my time doing this. There's so many other things that most other people are stuck doing, and we get to do this.
Yeah.
And so, it would be a waste to be thinking about, oh, I wish I got this for it. Just being able to spend my time doing it and making it better all the time is a better way to focus it's always a waste to be dwelling on insecurity, for sure.
I used to teach art, or I was just going to say really quick, I used to teach art, high school art, and I did workshops and college courses and stuff. And some of the best compliments is hearing from those students, that they want to visit or hang out. And some of them have gone down the art path and they're reaching out on Instagram and stuff. And I'm telling them what I know, but I'm not like the, super successful artist like so many others, but I'm happy to share with what, people I know. But what stuck with me so far is really the comment you said about fostering a community. Hey, let's get together, let's start something. I think that's brave and great.
Jeanne, can I ask you a nuts and bolts question about selling art through your website?
Yeah.
Do you, so like in a transaction with someone, they contact you and they want to buy something that's on your website.
Mm-hmm.
Do you then work with them individually? Do you frame the things before they're shipped? I mean, what happens from the time somebody says, I really like that piece of art and I want to buy it? Can you?
Yeah. So typically I mostly frame everything anyway. So most of my stuff, when I have it priced on my website, it is priced including the frame. It's already framed.
In your choice of frame.
In my choice of frame, right. I don't frame stuff custom for people.
Okay.
No, that would make me crazy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So occasionally if something has just come, if I've just finished it and it's a size that I have a couple of frames, I will contact them and say, hey, so I've just finished this. I haven't put it in a frame. Here's the 2 frame options I have. Which one do you want? So I will do that. And then if it's a really big piece and I'd rather not frame it, then I'll contact them and I'll say, so it's a really big piece. Would you like me to ship it to you unframed? And you can frame it yourself. It depends on the person. Some people, if it's an artist, might prefer to have it unframed because they know how to frame it, and they would rather save the money on the shipping and also on the framing. But then lately I've just had a lot of people that'll just buy it, want me to ship it to them, don't want to. And so, but it's also, I have a buy now button on my website. So lately I've just gotten a lot of emails that just say, so-and-so just bought this. And unless they specifically ask, I just wrap it up and ship it as is and assume they want what,
you send them.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So the way I have a FASO website, FASO, and
Mhm.
you can set it up to have that PayPal connection if you want. And what I like about that, since I do have 8 different galleries that I'm working with, every piece in there, you have the option of either just saying it's available, in which case there's a price and a buy now button, or it'll say it's available through gallery, and then it'll have a link to the gallery.
Mhm.
So they can't buy it from my website. They have to go to the gallery to buy it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and on that note, that now I'm glad you brought that up because I had some questions about the PayPal thing. Because I was interested in setting that up through, I'm on FASO also. And I think you have to have, okay, now I could be wrong, but I think you have to have a business PayPal account to do that, or
Yeah,
just,
you do. But
okay.
it's not hard to set that up.
Okay, so I went, so I've been following, oh, link to that, link to that. I got to the business PayPal thing, and it talks about articles of incorporation, legal business name, business license. Do you have to have all that?
I didn't.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, so because when you're putting the PayPal name, whatever you're going to name it, it says make sure that it's the correct legal business name.
It's if you're just doing it as yourself. I just did it. Mine just says Jeanne Rosier Smith Fine Art. That's what I just call my business.
Okay, so you don't worry about a business license or like anything like that?
Do you have are you registered as a business?
No. I'm so new to this. Haven't got there yet. So
Yeah,
do
I'm
I need to do that?
sure. I don't think you do, but I'm
I
not
didn't
sure.
think so either, because I don't think I did that. When I set my business PayPal account up, I don't remember them asking for my seller's permit number. I have one, but I don't recall them asking for it.
Yeah, I don't think they ask for it. If they don't ask for it, then I don't see why you
Okay.
have to have it.
Okay.
If I can interject on that, because I've gone through all that already with PSSC, with my two businesses that I have. So when it comes regards to PayPal, you can set up PayPal just with your name. But if you're going to do a business account, yes, they're going to need the articles of incorporation if you're an LLC, if you're going to do all that other stuff. So, but you can set up PayPal buttons without an issue, just with your name. Now, California is a little bit different sometimes because obviously the sales tax and everything else. So it probably behoove you to get a seller's permit, and you can do it. You just be wary of that. So, but you can sell with your PayPal buttons. You don't have to go to PayPal and do a business account specifically. You can put buttons just by having your own website. So, but
Okay, so if I set up a PayPal button on FASO, I don't have to set up a business PayPal to do that PayPal button? I just have to have a PayPal account?
Jeanne, you probably know Fausto already has set up a shopping cart for you. So if you want to sell, just activate it. Go to your account, go to the systems, make sure that your commerce is on, and the buttons will come up.
However, he makes an important point, which is if you're selling stuff, you probably should have a business license because you're going to be having to pay sales tax and all that
That's
stuff.
correct. That is correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
I do.
Oh, that helps, Otto.
Okay. I'm going to disappear now.
Yeah. Yeah, you can set it up. The first little while that I had it, I forgot to add Massachusetts sales tax. So that was really unfortunate because then I had to go in and pay the sales tax myself, which was not fun.
Yeah.
Taking a little bit more out of what I was earning. So I do obviously have a sales and use tax certificate for Massachusetts. So I had to set it so that it would automatically charge that for any Massachusetts sales. It figures it out. Like if somebody's if someone's buying it and not in Massachusetts, they don't have to pay the Massachusetts sales tax.
Okay.
So,
All right.
So let's see, we have another 15 minutes here. So what else we want to talk probably about getting into galleries or about gallery
Yeah.
Yes.
relationships. That's another big topic. And one thing that I just kind of as a general thing to keep in mind with galleries that I think it's very basic and simple, but it's easy to forget. When you're approaching galleries, when you're looking to get in, well, there's a couple things. There's a couple of books that I recommended about this, or blogs that will help. But when you're looking for places, the best thing that I would recommend is look for places where you really like the artwork and where you feel like your artwork fits in. And think like the business owner. Remember that galleries are businesses and they're trying to make money. Their main job is to make money.
Mhm.
So think less like I'm somebody that I really want you to like my art. I really want you to say yes to me. Instead of thinking as a supplicant going in, think about yourself as a business partner going in and saying that you're going to try and help them solve a problem, that you are here to increase their wealth. So if you can think about yourself that way as a business partner, and you're promoting, that you're walking up basically trying to help them solve a problem, you're much more likely to receive a positive response from them. Most galleries have, obviously, they've got a lot going on, and although now they don't necessarily, this might be a good time to be approaching galleries, because there's not as much activity in the galleries right now, and they have a little bit more time to be reviewing possibilities. Although the galleries that are doing well are really, really busy still. Like I said, that one gallery sold 17 of my pieces this year so far. She's really working like crazy. And I have a couple of other galleries that are still selling well because they're reaching out to clients. So they're having to work harder to find their people right now. But what you want to do if you're, say, writing an email to reach out to a gallery, if they usually will list protocols on their websites, so once you've narrowed down some galleries that are in the right price range for you and in the right, selling the right kind of art for your art, if it's the right, you feel like the clients are going to be the right kind for your art, then in your email to them, one of the things you might want to talk about is you might not want to list awards and a list societies that they belong to, because galleries don't care about that. What they care about is whether or not they want to know that you're a professional and that they can rely on you to be able to produce things and bring things to them when they need them. So they need to know that you are professionally active, but they want to know if you have a sales record. They want to know if this is something that you have. Don't mention it if you don't, but if you have an ongoing sales record of so many K per year, mention it to them. It may feel like bragging to other people, but if you can go into a gallery owner and say, this is how many thousands I've sold, or this is how many paintings I sold last year, then they're going to say, ooh, I want a piece of that action. That's the kind of thing that's going to get their attention. Mm-hmm. So think like a business person more than thinking like an artist entering a show when you're approaching a gallery. Think like, how can I help you as a business person? And remember, you're offering them something that potentially is going to be really good for them. So how can I be doing you a favor? It's not like you want to walk and say, hey, I want to do you a favor. Obviously, you got to be somewhat humble, but you are doing them a favor. If they like your work, you're going to be making them money. So you have to be confident and say, hey, I think that this might be a really good fit, and here's why. And you also want to show awareness of their aesthetic and of the history of their gallery. So do a little research into their gallery and what they're saying. Look at their website long enough to know what they're trying to do, and show that you understand it. Mm-hmm. It's also a long-term relationship if you do get into a gallery. It may start out, usually most places that I've been will take a couple of pieces to start with. And so you do want to have a body of work to show them, but they're usually not going to take 25 pieces to start. They're going to take 2 or 3 and then see how they go. They'll float them with their clientele and see how what the reaction is. And, but if it turns into a long-term relationship, it's not unlike a marriage where you're both going to get on each other's nerves at various times, but you have to negotiate things, and you work it out, and you have to communicate a lot, and you keep checking in with each other, and you can't just leave it sitting there and not ever check in with them. So you both have to communicate, and you both have to work from both sides. And everybody has to give. So, and it can be very rewarding on both sides. So, and they're all different. Oh my God, they're all different. You know, the different personalities, you get completely different. You know, I have 8 different ones I work with. They all do things differently. It's not like any other industry. Each one is a totally different experience.
Do you have any, I don't know, big lessons from them, like a time where you dodged a bullet or something, so to speak?
I have been pretty lucky. There have been times where I've had to get out of a situation because I realized that they just weren't really selling things, or the gallery owner just, all they wanted to do was sell their own stuff. And I think in general, I prefer galleries where the artist is not an artist, where the gallery owner is not also an artist. I mean, sometimes it works just fine.
Yeah, for sure.
But I tend to find that professional gallery owners do a better job as a rule. Do not quote me on that.
Do you have insurance with your galleries?
No.
I only asked that. No, okay. I had artwork burned down in the gallery. That's just,
Oh, geez.
yeah. And so since then, I'm like, okay, gotta make sure it's insured, kind of thing.
So you carry your own insurance?
No, that's way too expensive. I asked them about their insurance policies, and I'm just in one gallery right now. Like I said, the Art House Centro, and they have insurance for their gallery.
Actually, there was now that you say that, there was a gallery this past year that I had a couple of my pieces, and she's not even my regular gallery. They just had a couple of pieces, and they had a flood, and they did have insurance. So I did get, I think, 90% of what I would normally get because of the insurance. Yeah. Because one of the pieces was ruined.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah.
What's your podcast about? That's another question. Like, and how do you go about getting guests on your podcast?
Oh my God, I don't do a podcast. I just was on someone's podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I couldn't do that. That's too much. Yeah.
Everybody's starting their podcast, and it's so funny. I was like, man, I've become like a connoisseur of them because I've listened to so much. And, sometimes I'll go live on Instagram with a friend of mine, and it's not a podcast, but we discuss art, and it's just nice to see him while we talk.
Oh yeah. I talked to my son about that because we kind of talked about possibly doing that, but then I realized there's way too much involved. And because I thought, there's all these people that I could call and talk to, it's a good network and it would be fun. But then I thought, no, there's only so much you can do. And I have to focus on other things. But it's a good idea. It's just, I can't.
Yeah, add it to the stack of, your to-do list. Yeah, I have a calendar that I'm very thankful for my iPhone because it has this amazing calendar and schedule, and I can move stuff, but it's very structured and visual. So I have to see it,
Yes. So what other questions do we have here?
I have a question for you, Jeanne. Do you have any plans to do an interview, or I don't know what you call it, with Alan Picard for his Cultivate class? He hasn't reached out to you yet?
I don't think so. He's reached out to me about using images, but I don't think he's talked to me about doing an interview.
Oh, okay.
I would, if he asked me, I would do it.
I was hoping he might be doing waves in one of his.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anything.
What big projects are you working on next?
Me?
Yes.
I am. So this gallery in Connecticut is her next show is called Journeys, and she wants travel paintings. So I have a couple sketched out from a trip to Paris I took a couple years ago, and Normandy. So I'm really wanting to dig into that. That's kind of the next thing that's going up on the easel, is a couple of travel paintings from Normandy and Paris.
How cool.
Yeah.
What's the name of the gallery? Do they have an Instagram?
Yeah, Susan Powell Fine Art.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah. So that's the next thing I'm doing, just probably this week. That'll be on the docket for this week. And And then Larry Powers wants me to do, I had done a little sketch of a barn and he wants me to work on that. And so he wanted a bigger scene of that. He really likes big paintings. I have a bunch of big paintings I need to work on. Basically, we're getting into March. So the summer season is upon us almost. And I've really got to get my inventory up for waves. So things have been selling and I'm just kind of low on inventory. So I've really just have to get a lot of painting done.
Larry Powers is a gallery.
Larry Powers is a gallery, Powers Gallery in Massachusetts, in Acton, Massachusetts. Yeah. So my main thing to do as long as this pandemic lasts and I'm just in the studio is just paint, large paintings, small paintings, medium sized. I have such a long list. I just have a list in my studio of stuff, paintings to do. And
do you merchandise? Do you think about merchandise, or how soon do you start preparing for like Q4, Christmas and all that?
So merchandise, you mean like calendars and cards and pastels and stuff like that? Yeah, I do that. I have all of that stuff. That I have to probably do my calendars in July or August. I have to order a lot more this year because they sold out really early this past year. I'm almost out of my cards. I'm waiting for Vistaprint to have a sale because they're too expensive until they're on sale for me to order cards and turn around. There's a very low profit margin in cards. I really just do them as a price point thing for people to have them and also to give away to people who buy big paintings.
That's good to know.
Yeah, because it's a lot of work to order them and then fold them all and stick them in the little packages and mail them out.
Mhm.
You know, but it's a good low price point thing. And then somebody might buy them and then just be thinking about you. You know, if they only want to spend $25, it's a good thing to have. My galleries always like to have some of them to send off with really big paintings as a gift. So it's nice. You have to have cards. You just have to do it. So, but I'm almost out of them. I think I only have 3 packs left or 2 packs left. So I really need to have more.
I have another question.
Yeah.
On the description of today, you have multiple income streams.
But we're talking about that right now. So
Yeah, so the
multiple
cards,
streams.
calendar.
Cards. So there's merchandise, and I've got
Merchandise,
two
okay.
sets of. I've got some pastel sets from Terry Ludwig that people order. And just so you know, so there's 2 different seascape sets, and
I have both.
thank you. So there's those. Then I made DVDs, seascape DVDs a while ago. People order those all the time. So that
What is that? Like a demo?
Yeah, it's 3 hour long. There's one on painting the anatomy of a wave, one on painting coastline, and one on dunes and grasses. And so, and I recorded those in 2016. So those kind of income streams where it's stuff that's already done that people just order from my store. I have a Squarespace store. Merchandise, like Daniel was saying, there's a calendar. Stuff like that is what you'd call mailbox money, that you don't necessarily have to do a lot for it and it just comes in. I think the next step with that, and I hope a lot of more artists are going to get into this, once you have a following built up, what I really want to do instead of DVDs next time is just do recorded demos, not necessarily Zoom demos where people are asking live questions, but just recorded demos that I can actually just have on my website that people can pay to download. Because the Zoom demo that I did this past week on Monday, I had 100 people in the Zoom. It was $25. It's sold out, and people are still buying the recording for $25. I'm still I think it's watchable through the 25th or 27th, and I'm still getting people. And I've sold over 200 of them.
That's great.
And all I need to do at this point when somebody orders it is just send them the email with all the links, and there's a lot that they get with it. But so I could do that with fairly easily. It would be actually easier not to do it live, to just have recordings, and then it would be available permanently for on my website. So I think that I will in the future try to do some more just recorded demonstrations that I can host on my website and have people download.
Yeah, I really like that idea. And
Yeah.
actually, one of the things too I'd like to look into is licensing some certain images and also certain designs that I've created. And so, have you
Yeah.
ever done that?
I have not, and I've at various times had licensing companies get in touch with me, and I haven't. It's to me, I just felt overwhelmed every time they came to me, and it's just something that I haven't looked into. It's if you have a couple of really, strong images that somebody wants, it's the profit margin. It's like it's a different setup for doing business. You get a much smaller amount for they sell a whole lot of them, I guess, and maybe there's different ways of doing it. It's scary to me, so I've never really gone forward with it. I don't know
I
that
can
much
speak
about
up
it.
a little bit about that, like doing a beer label, a wine label, and album covers, or even
Oh.
like a textile design like that. I've done each of those, and it's been fun. But personally, the revenue's never been great on the royalties. It's more of I've learned since to just charge a fee for it, because yeah, even with children's books, if you're illustrating a children's book, the contract can be like this much amount for the work I'm doing and then royalties. And sometimes you can choose to like have that set amount be part of the royalties until, and you're paid. And then once the royalties start getting over that amount, you'll get it. But like, at least for the books that I've done, I've never gotten past the fee. They just haven't sold enough. It's flexible, and it is a whole rabbit hole to go down when you're starting to do that.
Well, PSC members, you know what? Our time is up. We want to. I know it was a lot of information. Jeanne, you did an excellent job. Thank you so much for being here. How did you guys feel about this small group session?
This
And
was great.
Jeanne,
This is great.
Great.
For you.
I want to get everybody's Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Keep this conversation going. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. Can you leave us for a few more minutes so we can do that?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, you're only obligated for 90 minutes, but you do have a 15-minute window, so it's all up to you.
Okay.
So, if you want, I'll let you go as long as you want. You just let me know.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Give us a few more minutes so we can wrap up on this.
No problem.
Okay. All right.
There, I just put my Instagram in the chat.
Oh, good. Okay.
I think. Oh, I didn't.
No, I don't
Yeah,
see it.
but if
I
you
don't
have an
see it.
Instagram or website, I'd like to check out everybody's
right.
artwork.
I'm following you now.
If you put yours, so I'll put mine in the chat too. It's just my name.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Yes, I'm already following you, Jeanne. Yeah,
I saw that when I followed you that you were already following me.
I'm a fan. Marty.
Marty.
Okay. Cool. Thanks, Marty.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think I was going to ask you, but I think you might have answered it already about your Instagram following. Do you feel like that's like your biggest marketing tool? Or, I mean, you said newsletter too.
Yeah, it's those two work together. So Instagram, I would say, gathers everybody together, and I like to funnel people into my newsletter from Instagram. Sometimes people directly buy stuff from Instagram. It's a wider net, and it's much looser. My newsletter is my really, that's my really hard hitter, better group of people, because it's bigger fans. I get much more response from my newsletter. I can often fill a workshop or fill the Zoom thing just from my newsletter. I don't have to send it out to anything else. So that's my most loyal following. So I think the newsletter is really, really important. If you're going to do one thing, I really don't just do one thing. if you were only going to do one thing, I wouldn't just do Instagram. Use Instagram as a tool to build up your newsletter audience. I did, by the way, just recently write 3 articles on advice on writing a newsletter, getting started with a newsletter in Fine Art Views, which is the FASO newsletter.
Oh,
So if you
I need
add,
that.
I didn't put those in the document, but I can, so if you go to, are you guys all on FASO? Do you guys all have FASO website? No? Okay.
I have a different one.
Let me see if I can put those just in the chat here. It's going to take me a few minutes. So maybe what I'll do is I'll send them. Can I send them to Otto and then he can send them to you guys? Would that work?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
But basically they're all, it's a series and they're all called The Procrastinator's Guide to Writing a Newsletter. So the first one's all about, I know these are your excuses for why you don't want to do this, but here's why you have to do it anyway.
And
That's
also,
great.
I always look at your hashtags. Do you think
Oh,
those
yeah.
are a big draw for getting more followers?
Yes, I was going to actually mention that when I was thinking about that when Daniel was talking, that's another way to get more followers is just change up the hashtags a little bit. And when you're writing in your hashtags, look and see how many people follow each of those hashtags. And if you only have a few people following each one, you might want to put some hashtags that have bigger groups in there.
I didn't know you could do that. That's awesome.
Every time you type in a hashtag, it'll say how many people follow that hashtag.
Okay.
It might take a second, but it will register how many people have taken. The other thing I do just to save time, because you don't want to be spending forever on these things, is once you have a good group of hashtags for a particular category of post, like I have, I do tend to post a lot of seascapes. I have like a good 11 or 12 hashtags that I keep in my, in the little notes thing on my computer.
I do that same thing. Yeah. So I don't have to
I'll
think
just
of them.
cut and paste them for
Yeah.
that post. And sometimes I'll add one or two so they're not exactly the same every time. And I have the same thing for my winter ones. I'll have a little winter section that one time I accidentally cut and pasted the winter hashtags for a summer painting and somebody was like, this is a great painting, but those hashtags. Oh no.
That's funny.
It said like winter in New England and it was like this summer painting.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah. Do you bother with business, Facebook business page?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. In fact, I do because my Instagram automatically links to my.
Right.
So basically, I don't post on it directly. I just every time I post on Instagram, it automatically posts to my Facebook business page, and it gets a lot of. What's interesting about that is that even though there's not as many people following on Facebook, they're different people than the ones that follow on Instagram. So it hits a different audience and there's still a lot of activity on there. And I definitely do get people who sign up for things from Facebook and who want to buy things from Facebook.
Yeah.
So you don't want to ignore it.
Oh.
They tend to be a little older on Facebook than they are on Instagram.
Oh.
This
has been so helpful, Jeanne. Really
Yes, it
helpful.
has. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
If you think of something else, another question, you can send me an email.
I can't wait to get those emails from Otto from you.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Okay.
I have already sent the docs. You guys should have received that already. And just a reminder that we have Jeanne locked down for between October 18th and the 23rd. So we definitely have, so hopefully all this will be over and we'll get to have an in-person workshop. So again, this has been indispensable. This is absolutely great. Thank you so much, Jeanne. Do you have any comments? Anything to close off with?
No, I think I've said everything.
That's a lot.
Thank you. You guys were really
Thank
great.
you.
I wish everybody really good luck going forward and check in with me and say hi. And, I want to hear how everybody's doing.
I'm going to
Okay.
get on your newsletter list.
Oh,
I want
yeah.
to get on
I
there
didn't know
too.
about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, a good mentor is invaluable. Thank you so much, Otto, for putting this all together.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. And thank you for participating, all of you. I really, really hope that next year we can start flying artists and having in-person small group sessions. This is really special. So thank you again, Jeanne, for being part of this. I really do appreciate it. And
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, thank you for asking me.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to reclaim host and I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. We've got our next one coming up at 1 o'clock. All right.
Thanks,
All right,
Otto.
thank
Thank
you.
Bye-bye.
Good to see
Bye.
you all.
Bye-bye.